Hi, my name is Kayla Keith, and this is Missing Midwest, a true crime podcast telling the stories of those gone missing. Today's episode is about a college student who took a quick study break and never returned. This is Missing Midwest, and someone knows something. Hi.
Hello. I'm still trying to wake up.
I know, I am dragging today.
We had quite the night last night.
Why are we sleepy, you may ask? The first thing you should know about Johnny and I is that the most random and weirdest things happen to us.
It's true.
If you ask people that know us, they just know that we've had
It's always been this way.
Yeah, for as long as I can remember. And when I say weird things and random things, I mean like
we're going to tell you.
A fugitive hiding in the bushes of our house.
Happened.
I don't know. What are some
Yeah,
other
that happened,
examples?
bro. It was
We'll have to
wild.
tell that story different time.
Yeah.
Anything.
Just one weird story for today, but it happened last night.
Last night, 11 o'clock. We were so proud of ourselves.
We are losers when it comes to going to bed at a reasonable time.
We are. We stay up way too late, and then we regret it every day. And so we were like, we are going to bed before 11.
We're going to start Monday strong with a good night's rest.
Oh, man, and the dishes were done. The
house was
done,
immaculate.
The house was clean. The clothes were laid out. Like, we were really
We were on top of it. We were ready to knock out Monday.
Start a good week. And so then we went to bed early, and we laid down, and Johnny literally was like, man, look at us. We're doing so good. We're in bed before 11. And we started to doze off. And just as we were dozing off, I hear this loud crash, in which I said, what the heck was that? And our dog started barking and growling. And Johnny, who was already half asleep, was like, oh, it was nothing. I was like, it was something? Like, what in the world? And so he ignored it because he didn't want to get up because he was really comfortable. He literally had just said, like, I'm in prime, like, falling asleep position right now.
I have sleeping problems. I do not sleep well. So for me to fall asleep by 11 was impossible, and I was well on my way.
And so I also ignored it. Clearly, I didn't care either. And the dog stopped barking, so I thought if something was wrong, like, he would have continued. And he didn't. He went to sleep. So we went to sleep. And then, like, 10 minutes later, Johnny was like, Kayla? And I opened my eyes, and our entire bedroom was, like, blue and red flashing lights through the windows. And we jumped out of bed, and we ran to the front of the house, and there was cops everywhere. Probably
I think there was 15 cop, sheriff, state trooper, ambulance. I think there was 15
everywhere.
vehicles.
So we like grab our shoes, we run out there, we're like, what's going on? And we look in our yard, and there is a car that is just completely wrecked. We live on a bad intersection corner, and we've lived there for a year, and there have been no wrecks, but everyone warned us about it. And they're like, and I see this car, I'm like, ooh, yikes.
It's destroyed.
It's in our yard. There's crap everywhere. And I'm like, is everyone okay? And the cop was like, well, he hit a motorcycle, and the motorcycle's over there. And I was like, oh. And he said, and we can't find the driver. And I was like, what do you mean you can't find the driver? Like, he's like, he's gone. Like, we don't know where he's at. And they proceeded to spend the next hour searching the fields, searching around. They were like going through our property, like everywhere. They had drones with like spotlights all over the yard. The cop came up to me and he was like, have you checked your barn yet? I was like, have you checked my barn yet? I'm not checking my barn. Like, he was like, well, there was beer bottles everywhere. So they thought he was probably drinking, even though the car ran the stop sign, but he hit a motorcycle. And so they're like, he probably ran away.
Yeah, it was a weird situation.
He was probably drinking and driving, and he ran away. And I'm like, and you think he's hiding
in our
barn?
Where the motorcycle was, like,
it didn't make
40
sense,
feet away, there was a cooler with beer bottles in it that were not broken.
It was so weird.
And then, like, 50 yards further from that, there was, like, a work bag. Like, this guy just got hit by a car and walked away.
None of it made sense.
Nothing made sense.
That weren't broken, beer bottles that were broken.
And like our neighbors.
Is this really happening? Missing Midwest right here in my front yard.
I was about to be like, somebody want to do an interview? We're ready to rock here. Breaking news from Missing Midwest.
A police officer came up, and I was informed him I was not, in fact, doing his job, and he was going to have to check the barn himself. And I was like,
I checked the barn.
I know. Why'd you do that? That's scary. What if he was in there? Drunk and hurt and mad and scared the police were looking. You were going to be like, I found him.
Yeah. That's exactly what I was going to do.
Yeah, he wouldn't have liked that. So I don't know where he's at. They looked for 45 minutes, and then they just, like, as soon as they got there, packed up, and they were out of there.
They basically said that they've seen drunk people walk away from crazier things than this, and that's probably what happened. And then they were gone.
In the middle of the country. Yeah, and the last firefighter was like, I was like, so, like, if we find him, we just, like, give you a call? He was like, yeah. I was like, okay, cool.
Yeah, and then our neighbor was like, yeah, we heard it and came out immediately and did not see him anywhere. Like, all this stuff was like this. And so it's like...
So what's your theory?
My theory... So here's my theory, and we told them this. All the time, there are 2 motorcycles that fly down our road in the country. There's 2 of them, always. And my theory is that this one was one of them, and then the second one was not far behind him. Grabbed his buddy and they went because there was alcohol involved and they knew they were in trouble.
He just jumped on the back
and was gone. Because I was thinking if the car hit the first one and the other one was like 200 yards behind him, he'd have been like, "Bro, we got to get out of here. Get on."
I know. I just feel like the other driver, he was out walking around looking, and he said he never saw anything. And then our neighbor said they were out. They heard it and they were outside.
The other fun fact about this case is that there was no license plate on the back of the motorcycle.
Yeah, the police officer was like, yeah, he took the license plate. I said, what do you mean he took the license plate?
He got hit by a car. I'm pretty confident he did not say.
He just got hit by a car. You think he just had his handy-dandy little screwdriver in his pocket? And he was like, wait, 1 sec. Let me get my license plate.
Yeah, that was weird.
But they found out that they did track the VIN number, and the VIN number went back to a couple, and they said they had just sold the motorcycle within like 2 days. So
we forgot to bring our
we've solved this case.
True Crime Podcast badge to the conversation, so they were looking at us like civilians, but it's okay. We respect law enforcement. That's okay.
My theory is that I think he could still be out there, which I really hope not. I really hope he walked away.
I know, because we were just talking about Brandon Swanson last week on a tractor.
Literally, somebody said, what if he's still out there? And it's bean fields, and the beans are like, I mean, they're like waist deep, but they're really thick.
Yeah.
And like,
I don't want to think about it. Yeah, it's rough. That's rough.
I hope
my theory is it was the motorcycle duo that we hear all the time.
Yeah.
Number 2 was behind him, was like, we're in big trouble. Get on the back of my bike and let's go to the hospital.
Well, I hope they went to the hospital. In the car. The car was not okay. The car was completely totaled. It was bad because after he hit the motorcycle, he hit our pine tree, knocked it. I mean, it's complete. It's gonna have to come down. It's completely leaning.
Took out our grapevine.
Took out our grapevine, which was made of like 4x4s in the ground and metal, and then took out the entire asparagus patch. Now our yard is covered in car parts, covered in glass. It's a hot mess.
And then we were all hyped up on the whole thing, so we didn't.
I couldn't sleep.
We didn't go to sleep till like 2.
What if he's in the field still and he's hurt? And it was too much adrenaline for me.
Yeah.
But like, it couldn't have just been a car wreck. It had to be a missing motorcycle driver with the car wreck. So in our front yard, it was great.
This is the kind of stuff that just happens to us sometimes.
We'll tell you about the guy hiding in our bushes another time.
That's a good story. Next time.
You know what's stressful? Buying and selling a house. Just over a year ago, we were in the middle of the process and it was overwhelming. I am so thankful that we had someone like Amber to guide us through the process. She knew what to do and when to do it. You were so concerned about pricing and loans, and I was just concerned with the colors and the layout. Oh, you remember that?
Yes. Amber kept everything in mind, and we are in our dream house because of her. If you are looking to buy or sell in or around the Howard County area, you have to give Amber a call, or you can just give her a text, 765-865-1118.
You can follow her on Facebook at Amber White, Realtor/Broker with Carrie Gruhl and Associates. She posts the latest listings, giveaways, and even helpful home tips.
We are so grateful for Amber and all her help. Who are we talking about today?
Today we're talking about a missing person as well. So this one, and actually it's close by. This is the closest one we've done. We're going to talk about Tricia Reitler. And I know you know who Tricia Reitler is because I talk about Tricia Reitler all the time.
Yes.
This one hits close to home for me, mostly because it is close to home for me. It happened in Marion, Indiana, which we lived in Marion, Indiana in college. She went missing from IWU, Indiana Wesleyan University, and Johnny and I went to Taylor University, which they're like rivals, kind of. So,
but like Christian school rivals, so they're like friendly rivals.
Yeah, like one of my best friends growing up went to IWU, and it's like a friendly rival thing. They're both pretty much the exact same school, like 20 minutes apart.
I actually taught at a school for 5 years that was like 2 blocks away from where all of this happened.
So the school we went to, Taylor, is literally in the middle of nowhere. So if you wanted anything, you had to go to Marion. So we spent a lot of time in Marion. Which is where I was. Yeah. And then when Johnny taught at Marion for 5 years, we lived in Marion as well. And so we knew everything about it. So she went missing on the campus. Like, she was a student there and she went missing from there. And her parents, I just remember I read an article a long time ago about how her parents, she was from Ohio, and her parents are And they come back to 𝒊𝒂 campus every year. And just like, I read something about like her dad still like searching for her to this day, just like walking and looking. And I just like killed me. I just can't imagine. And that's one of my things I always say, like a missing child, like you would never stop wondering where they're at. And
yeah.
it's
heartbreaking, whole situation.
Yeah. I don't like any of it. So I'm going to tell you the story about it because there's a few suspects in her disappearance. And one of them I know that you guys are probably going to know because they made a TV show about it because he's an absolute monster. And he's responsible for a lot of other missing people that we'll probably cover. So there's going to be a connection with this one. So we'll start with Tricia, and then I'll tell you about her. And then one of the suspects, actually the most probable suspect in her disappearance, there's some other missing people that they pretty much believe he's responsible for all of them. So we're going to start in Marion, Indiana. Like I said, we're familiar with Marion, Indiana. Population was about 33,000 when she went missing, which she went missing in 1993. Actually, she went missing March 29th, 1993 when she was 19. And I was born March 25th, 1993. So there's like another little connection for me. Wow. Now the population in Marion has went down drastically. Well, I mean, it's 28,000 now. So, but Marion population fluctuates a lot because wasn't there like a factory there?
Yeah.
Like it went in and went out and I don't know. But they have $4 generals there. 28,000 people, $4 generals. I've been to all of them. Guarantee
it. I'm
it.
pretty confident we have.
I know I have. Because if it's not at one, it's at the other. And you have to check them all out because they carry different products. So I've made my rounds over there. The Marion Dollar Generals. So Tricia Reitler, she was born on February 9th, 1974. She would be 49 years old today. She was 19 when she went missing. She was a tiny little girl. She was 5 feet, 3 inches tall, 105 pounds. Like teeny tiny. I don't think I remember ever weighing 105 pounds. She was last seen wearing a silver ring, Indian-style leather strap necklace, a large-faced watch that had Roman numerals on it. She was a white female, brown hair, brown eyes. She had a small tattoo on her left ankle. Her ears were pierced. She was super good girl. Really high GPA, very good student. She was majoring in psychology. It was her freshman year. She was finishing up her freshman year. She was writing a term paper for the end of the year that night, and she decided to take a break from studying, as we all do, and she was going to walk to the Marsh supermarket for a drink and a snack. And it was like a half a mile from campus. So she did. She walked over there by herself. She bought a magazine and a Coke, and she left the store and was seen walking back toward campus, toward her dorm. She lived in Bowman Hall. So anybody that I know, I have friends on here that went to 𝒊𝒂 that are going to listen to this. So I don't know where Bowman Hall was, but it was on campus.
It's still Bowman Hall. I know that. I know it's still there.
Yeah. She never made it back to her dorm in that half a mile. She has not been seen or heard from since. They found her blood-stained jeans, a blood-stained shirt, her shoes in that field. They were discovered near a pool. There's Center Elementary School and a pool, and they found it like right by the pool. And it was right between the Marsh supermarket and her dorm. She was like halfway back, and they found those clothes. The investigators have said there was like 6 to 7 people playing basketball at the elementary school playground at the time of her disappearance, but not one person ever came forward to say like, hey, I was playing basketball there. I saw or heard something. And they did like put a statement out like, hey, if you were there, if you saw something, come forward. We need your information or whatever. And no, they never heard from anybody. They never found those basketball players. Nobody, I mean, I don't know if that means they didn't hear the request to come forward, or they just didn't have any information, or maybe they thought they don't have any information. Maybe they do. And so that was that. She disappeared. They called her parents, told her, she's missing. I did not find who reported her missing. I'm assuming it was somebody in the dorm room when she never came back. I don't know if she had a roommate or RA or isn't it RA? Do they have PAs or RAs? I will.
I can't remember.
So I'm
Hall
sure
directors or
yeah. So somebody reported her missing. I'm not sure her, but her parents were contacted. They came over, and they immediately started searching for her. And like I said, the only evidence they found was her bloodstained clothes. And so investigators immediately knew she was a victim of foul play of some sort.
Yeah, obviously.
But other than that, there was nothing. There was no security cameras at that time. No witness, not one witness. So that's it. They had nothing to go on. And so they obviously they looked into this case, and it's not that it was a cold case right off the bat, but they didn't have anything. So they had to just wait until like some tips came in. So they immediately looked at people around the area that had been
records or whatever. Yeah, sure.
You know,
kidnapping or sexual harassment.
Yeah. And so there's a couple of possible suspects they went through here. So Donald W. Grenier, he was arrested in 1999 and charged with the abduction and molestation of a young girl from Marion, Indiana. They searched his home, but no evidence was found and nothing was discovered, and they cleared his name. And he has always been adamant about his innocence in that crime. And then there was Tony R. Searcy. He was like a habitual offender in the area, and he has always been considered a possible suspect, but he denied all of the involvement in it, and he never was arrested. He was questioned but never arrested in connection with her case. And so that leads us to the most likely suspect, the one that I'm going to tell you about, that he has he's in jail currently for.
You're going to recognize the name.
Yeah. He's in jail currently for the murder of another young girl from Illinois. Jessica Roach was a teenager from Illinois. She was 15 years old. She went on a bike ride and she never came back home. And police found her body in Perryville, Indiana on November 8th, 1993. So same year. Tricia disappeared in March, and this was in November. Larry Dwayne Hall, he is... that's kind of an infamous name. He was caught approaching young girls in his van, and lots of people in different counties around that area in Illinois had reported that there was this creeper man in a van trying to talk to young girls for in the weeks after Jessica went missing. So they brought him in. Somebody had actually gotten a license plate from him, and they traced it, and they found out his license plate went straight back to Wabash, Indiana, and Larry Dwayne Hall lived in Wabash, Indiana.
Interesting.
And so the investigators in the Jessica Roach case, they called over to Indiana, and they're like, hey, you have a missing girl, Tricia Reitler. We just found out that Larry Hall from Wabash has been creeping on our girls over here. And immediately the Wabash police are like, no, not Larry. Larry is... Larry is a weird dude.
He's a treat.
He's one of those people that everybody knows and probably said he would never be capable of it.
But everybody says he's weird.
All know a Larry. I guarantee everybody in here,
oh yeah, I know that guy. He's
went
weird.
To high school
That's what
with
everybody
a Larry.
says.
Yes,
about Larry.
you had a Larry in high school or in your town, and Larry was that person of Wabash. And so the police were like, "There's no way Larry's involved in this." So they brought him in and questioned him in Jessica's disappearance.
Yeah.
Or her murder. They found her a couple weeks after, and he flinched when they showed him a picture of her, and he looked away. He said he didn't think he had ever seen her before. But in a follow-up interview, he did confess to abducting and killing Jessica Roach. And then without even being prompted or asked, he just started confessing to all these other girls that he had hurt as well. He said they all looked alike and he couldn't remember who they were, but he knew he had been hurting girls for a long time. The next day, he said, never mind, that was a dream.
Yeah.
And he recanted his entire confession. But the confession of killing Jessica and the fact that when they found his van, they found articles about her disappearance and her murder. And they found a lot of disturbing pornographic images. And they found notes implying that he was looking for more victims in his van. So even with the recanted confession, all of that led to him being arrested and convicted in her kidnapping and in her death. And he received a life sentence without the possibility of parole, and he is currently incarcerated in North Carolina.
Which, first of all, I just want to say, Like, that is good news that this dude is off the streets.
Yeah.
Like, that is great news.
We don't have to worry about Larry Dwayne Hall anymore.
Exactly.
However,
we want answers.
Yeah, I don't know that we'll ever know
Yeah.
who all was a victim of Larry Dwayne
Yeah,
Hall, because he was
and he's
terrible
freaking
person.
crazy.
And he's nuts. Yes.
So.
Very, very disturbed man. And so I would like to, I'm going to go back and we're going to look at Larry Dwayne Hall a little bit more. So he was born, so Wabash, first of all, we've been to Wabash many times too.
Sure.
It's not very far from Marion, and I think it's like 30 minutes away.
Maybe not even that long.
Really?
Yeah.
So he was born to Robert and Ariel Hall in Wabash, Indiana on December 11th, 1962. He was Robert, the dad, was a World War II veteran, and he worked at a local cemetery, and his wife was a stay-at-home mom. He was a grave digger. He dug graves. Larry had two brothers, Eugene Hall and Gary Hall, which was his twin brother. Their childhood wasn't super great. Actually, it wasn't great at all. His dad was an alcoholic and super, super abusive to Larry and both of his brothers. And he forced them to dig graves with him and for him.
Not good for anybody's psyche, I would imagine.
No. His mom seemed to be like a loving mom, as much as you could be when you allow someone to, like, you know, abuse your children. But Larry had a very low IQ, and he was teased a lot. He got made fun of for bedwetting when he was younger, and he never moved out with his parents. He lived with his parents until the time of his arrest, and he was a janitor. He worked as a janitor, and he also was a Civil War reenactor. Listen up. If you're a small business owner like myself, you understand the value of time. There is always something to be done, and it's up to you to do it. Your business is your baby, and you rarely can trust others with it. But what if I told you that I had somebody that you can trust, someone that can save you time and help your business grow? I do. With Bo Digital, you have access to an entire team that will be there for you with marketing and advertising. It doesn't matter what the size of your budget or your business is. Bo can help you take the stress of marketing off your plate and free up your time to do more of the things you love to do with your business. Bo is a marketing company and a business partner, but my favorite thing about them is that they have become true friends. You can find out more about them and what they offer at bodigital.com. Take it from me and put a bow on it. So why is he connected to Tricia? Is because police pulled Larry over after they received they completely disregarded him as a suspect in Tricia's case when they heard from the Illinois police, because they were like, Larry wouldn't do that. Yeah,
he's a weirdo, but he's not that kind of weirdo.
But they did pull him over after they started receiving calls from girls around here that were reporting they were being followed by a creepy man in a van. And so they pulled him over. And this is what they found in his van. Are you ready for this? It's not great. It doesn't look great for Larry. It's a spray can of starting fluid, a mask, cotton balls, knives, rope, and Tricia Reitler's missing person poster, and a piece of Tricia Reitler's 𝑴𝒊𝒔𝒆𝒌 stationery with her name on it.
Wait a minute.
Yeah. So he was obviously arrested. Thank you, the police. Thank you, Marion Police, for thinking that was suspicious. I've read other stories where people would be let go for that, but they were like, nope, you're gonna come in. We're gonna talk to you. We've got some questions for Larry here. And he immediately confessed to killing Tricia. However, later he was released they released him and said he was a wannabe killer, because he could not show police where her body was. To that I say, maybe he didn't want to show you where her body was.
Wait a minute. And this guy is already somebody who's confessed and then recanted, but then you found out that he was absolutely guilty of one of them.
So this right here happened before, because Tricia...
Okay.
Tricia went missing.
Jessica Roach was after.
I told it to you
6 months after.
Yeah,
you
I
said
told
that
it to you
earlier.
backwards, but so this all happened, and then he got released, and then was able to go on and kill Jessica Roach. So if they would have done this
Jessica Roach
in a different way, Jessica Roach might still be here.
Man.
Because they just when Jessica Roach got
here's what we should say about this:
the
the wannabe killers should get what the real killers get.
Yeah.
Take him off the streets.
Yeah.
Let's not flip a coin on whether or not he's crazy or not.
Yeah, like they're like we're betting on
Like,
he might be
hey,
a wannabe killer.
you confess
but
to
he's not gonna
murder,
do it.
you get murder sentence. We figured out you didn't do it, but that's on you.
Yeah. And so he
Dang it,
signed a
man.
statement confessing to Tricia's kidnapping and murder, but later recanted it and was never charged in connection with her case because there was a lack of evidence. He just had all that stuff. They're like, yeah, he just wants to pretend he's a killer and drive around.
So
like
he
a killer
goes
and
around
do it.
picking up her stationery.
Yeah.
That to me, that seems like a pretty intimate thing to be able to
And
acquire.
so it was after all of this. So they literally let him go. We're like, nah, he couldn't have killed Tricia. And then 6 months later, he did kill somebody. He killed Jessica Roach. And they still were like, no, it probably wasn't Larry. And it wasn't until Larry, they ended up in Jessica's case. They had evidence that connected Larry to, and then so then the Wabash police like, oh, maybe he did. Or the Marion police, you know, they were like, okay, maybe he wasn't lying.
Yeah.
So
I guess that's the first I've heard of the stationery. When you say when I hear stationery, I think like a letter with her name on it that you would only have like on your desk.
Yeah, it was like a personalized piece of stationery.
Because here's the thing about Iowa dorms. They're girls only.
Yeah.
Girls or boys only. There is no circumstance where a guy can be.
I mean, unless she had it like a folder with her or something the night that he took her. I don't know.
Again though.
Which means he was there.
Which means he was there.
I know.
Like,
it seems so. It's all very circumstantial evidence, but it's pretty.
Him having her
evidence.
stationery means he was in a place he was not supposed to be.
Yeah. So he signed the statement. He signed the statement confessing all of this. But then he took it all back and said, "Never mind on that as well." And they were like, "Okay, bye."
Jeez.
So investigators continued on. They searched the Grant County. They searched the Mississinawa River for her body. Larry led them there and said he buried her beside the Mississinawa River, but they never found anything. And so
Goodness.
So Larry confessed to Tricia's murder a third time to a fellow inmate, Jimmy Keene.
Jimmy Keene, legendary.
And he told Keene that he abducted Tricia, took her to his house. He left her tied in the back of his van while he tried to think about and figure out what he was going to do. He said he killed her and buried her in the wilderness somewhere outside of Wabash. And so what Gary didn't know was Keene was working as an informant with the FBI at the time, which is and he made a deal with them that if he got the location of Tricia's body, it was in exchange for his freedom.
Yep.
And so he said that Larry confessed to him, but never revealed the exact location. He also said that Larry drew him a map because he was in jail, and he specifically befriended Larry Dwayne Hall so he could get information from him, so he could save his own skin.
Yeah, which respect, mad respect.
Yeah, to befriend
so
a
much
crazy
respect.
killer?
Yeah.
Yikes.
I mean, I guess if I'm given the option,
you have nothing else to do in prison, though. I probably would too.
Yeah, but respect.
So he also said Larry drew a map for him because he started to think they were friends, and it was a map of Indiana, Illinois, and Wisconsin, and it had red dots all over it.
Yeah,
girls that he said
Goodness.
he had killed. He carved little birds out of wood, and he placed them on the dots, and said that they were falcons to watch over his dead. What?
He's a weird guy.
Police were not able to locate the map in his cell or anything after Jimmy told this. And Jimmy ended up getting out of jail later. He wrote a book about his experience of befriending a serial killer. And it's called In with the Devil. And although he never got the location of the body, he was released early for getting that confession for Tricia's murder. And so, like I said, Hall is currently in there, in jail, but he's serving the sentence for Jessica's murder because they had evidence in that one, which that might be something that we talk about in Murdered Midwest coming up. We might do Jessica Roach's murder. But Larry is suspected of killing over 50 women in the Midwest. And he has only been convicted of one, and he is very heavily suspected in Tricia Reitler's case as well. So Blackbird, we watched that show. You can
10
watch
out of
Blackbird.
10.
It's a really
10
good
out of
show.
10. It's on Apple TV.
I really liked it, but it is about Larry Dwayne Hall.
Yeah.
And Jimmy Keene and their time together in prison, and it shows how Jimmy kind of befriended him.
In my opinion, it's one of the most well done, like, true crime reenactment kind of
Yeah, and
series.
There wasn't a lot of like discrepancies in it. Like, it was pretty accurate of what happened.
We were fact checking the heck out of that thing.
Yeah,
every time something happens, is that real?
And
She's
guy,
on type.
The guy that played Larry, like, creepily looked
big
like
time
Larry.
creep. Big time. I mean, like,
sorry, dude, but
no, good for you. I mean, goodness, yeah, nailed it. But
so yeah, that's where it's at. Like, Tricia Reitler's body has never been recovered. Those are the suspects, which I think it's pretty obvious that it was Larry Dwayne Hall. But no one has ever found Tricia's body, and it's every time I go into Grant County, I think he told the truth. I think he's probably telling the truth. He buried her somewhere outside of Wabash, between Wabash and Marion. The thing is, Larry dug graves, so if she did get buried, it was a 6-foot grave that has not been uncovered yet by weather or animals or anything like that, and it's going to be extremely hard to find her. But again, this is one of those things too. I say, if you have property and you've ever found anything suspicious, you have to turn these things in.
Yeah, for sure.
Because you can't just see something and assume it's not anything.
Well, and I think the hard part is too, like, if you did do it in the wilderness, I mean, this is 30 years ago.
Yeah.
There would be absolutely no tell. There would be nothing.
Her bones would still be there.
I mean, 6 feet under, though. Like, what I'm saying is, like, the surface of the ground. It's not like you could see it and be like, I saw something sketchy in the Mississinawa woods the other day. It might be Tricia Reitler. Like, unfortunately, that's not the case. So it's like, really, we're waiting on him to, like,
there's so many, and there's a lot of rumors that go around the case too. But I just don't think any of them are worth it mentioning, because I think Larry did it, and I think he's still sitting in North Carolina refusing to tell people, and it ticks me off. Why can't we, like, force him? I think that's illegal to torture people, right? But
it is. But
someone should.
The one thing that, like, I've always known about this case because I started dating Kayla when I was 15, and fun fact, Kayla's family is Cherokee Indian, and we would always go to Mississinawa 1812, which is they do a reenactment. Her brother reenacts as an Indian. And we've been doing this we've been going there since I was like 15. And every single time we go, she has told me for, what have we been together now? Like a long time, 16 years, something like that. Every time we go, she's like, did you know that there was a serial killer that would do these reenactments?
Larry did. Him and his brother did the Civil War reenactments, and they would go. And that's one of the things that police kind of had been able to track. All of those reenactments through the Midwest, there was usually a girl that would go missing around where those reenactments were. And so that's what in the thing the investigators would say, like, if there was a missing girl, they'd be like, was there a Civil War reenactment that weekend?
Yeah.
Because we need to see if Larry was there.
Yeah. And, it's
I just wonder,
so
like,
frustrating.
The people that were with Larry at these reenactments, like, have you talked to the police? Because you had to notice when, like, bro would disappear for a while. But
also he was a weird guy. He'd probably be, like, pumped when he wasn't there.
Yeah, but
like, why don't you go take a breather?
Yeah, please, Larry. Yeah. Go do something.
Take your, what are they called? Burnsides and get...
What?
Burnsides. That's what he bragged about.
Mutton chops.
His mutton chops.
He had big mutton chop sideburns.
No, he called them Burnsides. That was the thing.
He called them that.
Yeah.
But that's not
but so here's the only thing that I think about when in the 2% chance that it wasn't him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you have to believe that it could
I am
not
98% sure it was him.
Something.
Somebody did
There was
something.
some foul play at some point.
So something you pointed out earlier was you mentioned all the people playing basketball and stuff.
Yep.
That's not weird to me. I've played pickup like 100,000 times in my life.
Mm-hmm.
I could not tell you anything about what was happening outside of the game. So I don't think that's weird. What I do think is weird, though, trust me. I mean, I unless there was like a gunshot.
I mean, a girl screaming, you should be
A
aware
girl
of
screaming
that.
is one thing.
Well, I don't
but
know
like,
how he would have gotten her without her making some sort of noise.
Didn't it happen in a field?
Yeah, but it was like an open. When you say field, I think large cornfield. This was a field in the sense of like a park, like a big grassy area, a park type thing. It wasn't like a cornfield.
But weren't the clothes like folded?
Okay, so there are many reports. So in Blackbird, they had the clothes folded, and I read a lot saying that was just for like TV value, like extra creepy to have the clothes perfectly folded. In real life, the reports are mixed. Most of them say the clothes were not folded.
Interesting. Okay, because I was gonna say, like, that's not something
I
he
don't think
did
took
with
the
anybody
time
else.
Yeah.
But like
that's a
with
little too,
all
like,
these other people,
ritualistic for Larry Hall, I think he just was a sloppy, messy things.
Crazy
I will
person.
go in. I've debated on this episode going into some other theories, whether or not I was going to go into the other theories, and I think I'm going to save it for another episode because there's a book that I'm reading that an author from Marion actually wrote, and he has a theory in there that Larry did not work alone.
That's the theory I've always held. Because he
Yeah.
wasn't the only one going to these
To
reenactments.
be honest with you, his brother, his twin brother, was with him for the reenactments, and I don't know that Larry was smart enough to pull all of it off. He was slow. He had a very low IQ. I think he might have just been the driver.
Well,
I think he
and
might have
here's
just been,
here's
I'm
my
not saying he
thing.
didn't do terrible things. I believe he did, but I don't know that he was the brains behind the operation, because there's been reports of other women that he followed that have said, like, yeah, Larry Hall in his creepy van with a brown stripe followed me, but there was another man in the passenger seat.
Yeah.
There's people in there was a woman in Kokomo who got followed by him,
Yeah.
and she identified him, but
there's
she
a lot of
said
reports like that. And like,
he was not alone. So I'm going to probably save that for another episode, because I've been talking to that author about Gary a lot on Facebook. We still have a couple conversations that we've been in, and I'll probably I think it's so much information. I'll probably do like a bonus episode on just Larry Dwayne Hall and all the possible people that he could be connected
right here in
to.
Indiana. We are living in Indiana,
Yeah.
and he's done a lot of terrible things here.
Yeah.
I mean, he has said and recanted and said and recanted.
Twice. And then
And
officially said it to
been in the
king.
same place at the same time as a lot of these creepy things.
He was definitely creeping on women.
For
so.
sure. That's no doubt about it. And, it's terrible that it's been 30 years and we can't pinpoint or get any more information. I think about Tricia's family, like you mentioned, like you've always told me about her dad that goes and looks and is just hoping for something, an answer or something.
Yeah, so I'm going to read, I have 3 quotes here from Donna Reitler, or 2 from Donna Reitler and 1 from her husband. And so I just want to read them because they're just they're heavy and they make you think, and it just makes me, like I said, just hits you. So this one is from Donna Reitler. Tricia's mom. It says, "We're not looking for revenge. We're beyond that. We just want to bring her home. It would just mean so much to all of us." And then she again was quoted saying, "If you see something on the side of the road, a garbage bag, whatever it is, I automatically think, could that be her?" Can you imagine?
Jeez.
As a parent, I cannot.
Jeez.
And then her dad said, "How sad it is to be envious of another family just because they found the body of their child."
Goodness.
I know.
Wow.
I hate it. I hate everything
Wow.
about this case. So this one has always been one of the cases for me that I've talked about. I think we talked about it in our introductions. You asked me one of the cases that
Yeah, if you could solve one.
If I could solve one case, I think I would pick Tricia Reitler.
Yeah, and it's if we could
And I don't even think it, sorry, I totally interrupted you, but I don't think it needs to be solved. I think she needs to be found.
She needs to be found.
If I could find one person, it would be Tricia Reitler.
I think it's on my billionaire bucket list. If I just had access to unlimited funds if we could get any kind of triangulation in Mississinawa, he said this.
There's so much
and just
land
okay,
to
let's.
look, though.
I know it's huge. It's not a small area. But yeah, gosh, I'm hoping that maybe over time technology, be able to read deeper into ground and stuff. Maybe that could provide an answer.
I think there's even technology out there now that you can do that with.
There's
different. The vegetation grows differently where bodies have been and stuff like that. So I don't know.
Yeah, if we ever
find it,
if Missing Midwest becomes a multi-million-dollar podcast, we might be doing some digging back into this one, just because it just seems like something that you and I have always cared a lot about, this case, and every time I hear about the parents, it just breaks my heart. And we've had a lot of good times in Marion, and it's kind of always been one of those that stuck with us.
I know. I think somebody needs to visit Larry Hall, and I think the guards need to look the other way for a little bit.
Man.
You
probably wouldn't remember it. That was mean too.
That was really mean.
All right.
Jeez.
Sorry, got all dark over here.
Fine, though. I don't have any. You can make fun of murderers all you want. That's fine. It's fine with me. Someone knows something about this one.
This podcast is a So.Will.I.Studos production. So will I.